Good afternoon, actually, good morning. This is your host, Michael J. Long, host of Michael's Libertarian Pizza Party. It's 9:50 a.m. on June 11th, 2021, and thank you for joining me. I truly and sincerely appreciate it. And before we begin, I got some advice for you guys. Let's begin. So if you like any of my videos, if not all of my videos, it doesn't even have to be all my videos, it can just be some, few of my videos, whatever the case may be. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing. That's right. Please consider subscribing, guys, because it truly matters in the end. Alright, let's get down to business. Shall we? Hopefully this won't be long, but so there's a couple. This is from the Libertarian Party's website, the National Libertarian Party, that is, for April 9th of 2021 here in the USA. So this is pertaining to the 2021 elections. And the Libertarian Party reports a 44% victories. And this is at the local and county levels. I should say local, state, and county levels. Wednesday night, so this was back in April 9th of 2021 when this was published by staff of the Libertarian Party. Wednesday night, candidate coordinator Carl Schultz announced the exciting results archived by Libertarian candidates this week. 7 brand new elected Libertarians for an overall 44% victory rate. And so here it's got a video. I'll provide the link on the description below. And there's another source I want to take a look at. This one is Libertarian 101. So this site was created by Alex Merced. So he's really good with coding and all that. And so he's got a bunch of different links on this website that includes the Libertarian Party and how joining the Libertarian community and Libertarian Party basics. So how to, with the stores, I guess he teaches you how to navigate that. He's got a podcast list here. So of all the must subscribe to podcasts. So there he's got the Reason podcast, the Contra Movement, the Lions of Liberty. He's got his own show, the Alex Merced podcast, or the Alex Merced cast. And then he's got all these other ones that he recommends that you subscribe to, including Dave Smith's Part of the Problem, and so forth. And then he's got a video list of all his videos that he's created regarding this, and his most recommended reading sources. So if you want the link to the site, I'll provide it. If you want to go to the site, I'll also provide that on the description box below. So what is a libertarian, and why am I bringing this up? Libertarians are people who believe in freedom in both personal and economic matters. So we, in a sense, believe in there being, depending on which part of the spectrum of the libertarian side you're on, there are the anarcho-capitalists who believe in no government. And then there's, but it's the idea that the less government you have, the better. And the less taxes you have to pay, the better. If not, and ideally, on the part of the anarcho-capitalists, they would prefer a world where there are no taxes, in the sense that taxation is theft. That's how they would describe it. So it all depends on how libertarian you are, but on a basic level, I guess we could say that freedom is what we support. So it's the idea that individuals should be able to decide for themselves what they choose to put in their own bodies, how they choose to spend their money, how they choose to live their lives, how they choose to raise their children, and so on and so forth, as long as they don't impose danger or force to others, or danger, force, or fraud to others. So that's the key, and most particularly danger and force. So that is the key to libertarianism, and understanding in terms of what a libertarian is. Because, and I know a lot of people get it mixed up with being half conservative and half liberal, when really we are our own philosophy. Although we may have political similarities with the right and the left, we are often our own philosophy. We are our own philosophy, our spectrum of politics and all that. Are there similarities between libertarians and conservatives? Yeah, on economic matters. Are there similarities between libertarians and leftists, or most particularly liberals? Yeah, when it comes to personal matters. But we're not saying, oh, let's get the government involved in every little thing we do or say. If anything, the Libertarian Party prefers to get the government out of the way. You know, and so I would say getting the government out of the way as much as possible would be the way to go. I recognize there's going to be some layers of government, but the more we can reduce and the more we can conserve with the powers of government that be, the better off we're going to be. Ideally, what I would say is the less government and the less taxes that you have to pay, and the more freedom that you have, and the better off you're going to be. So my motto for libertarianism, and this is just my motto, so this isn't something that is being based off the Libertarian Party, because the Libertarian Party's philosophy or motto is less government and maximum freedom. So my motto, which is very similar to this, I've added a few add-ons, is less government, less taxes, and maximum freedom. And the reason I include less taxes, and I wanted to include that in my own version of what the motto is there's these programs out there called Medicaid, Medicare chips that a lot of people with disabilities are dependent on. And so I think a first good step would be to retain it, but give it to people who truly need it. And then we can work on, at least for the time being. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of libertarians that would object to that and say, well, we should abolish that and everything else. So, you know, the anarcho-capitalists. Now, I'm not trying to infringe. I'm not trying to tell them what they should or shouldn't believe. But in my personal opinion, I would argue that we should have a transition plan before we even think about doing that. And a way to get there would be to allow Medicaid, Medicare, and CHIPS and Social Security to compete with the free market, and let's see who offers the better product. And then let's give it, at least for the people who are disabled, for the people who truly are disabled, who truly need it. You know, as far as Social Security retirement, let's work on slowly raising the retirement age. So as the older ones die out, then that way we can work on getting rid of Social Security retirement. retirement and letting people invest in their own IRAs or whatever. But as far as Social Security disability for people with disabilities and all that depend on it, I would retain it for the time being as well. And I would allow the free market to compete with it. And then as the demand diminishes for Social Security, then we can talk about getting rid of it at that point in time. And so that would be my opinion to the mix. Although I would say most libertarians that are anarcho-capitalists would support abolishing it altogether, which I'm not in favor of, but that's what they support. And I'm not telling them what they should or shouldn't believe. I just don't agree with that immediate ramification of getting rid of those programs right away. At least for the people with disabilities. So it all depends on whether you're a minarchist libertarian or an anarcho-capitalist, or if you're a libertarian light or anywhere in between. Alex Merced breaks it down in further detail. So I would really look into subscribing to his shows or whatnot. So, anyways, I just thought I'd bring that up. But I would say, on a most basic level, it's getting the government out of the way as much as we possibly can, and reducing and getting rid of all these other government agencies that we don't need. And then working on, and I've done a whole political video on where I stand on the issues, but this is where libertarianism is. If I had to describe it, I would say it's less government, less taxes, maximum freedom, on a more basic level. At least for me, anyways, because I recognize it's going to be some level of tax. Although I would say, at least in the world that we're living in, although I would say what is more doable than abolishing taxes is maybe replacing the income tax with the fair tax. Now that probably won't affect the Social Security, but it would ensure reducing government. The reason being is because the only way the fair tax would work is if you reduced the size and power of the government, which I'm also in favor of. And we can do that while retaining Medicaid, Medicare chips, and Social Security. How? It's simple. Get rid of all the other government agencies, like the CIA, like the Space Force, like the FBI, so forth. And, the military by itself should only be the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. It should never have created the Space Force. So I do support abolishing the Space Force because we don't need that as part of our military. And I don't even see a need for that. So I would go as far as abolishing the Space Force. And then bringing the troops home from these foreign countries that we don't need them there. We don't need to be spending all these wars. And so if we do all that, we can reduce the tax rate and upon implementing the fair tax. And so that would ensure over the period of time that you pay less taxes, and so on and so forth. And that's how I would handle it. But there are many different views within the libertarian world on how to address these different issues. And I think it's important because there's a lot of people on Social Security. There's a lot of people that work. There's a lot of people that don't, that are unemployed, that are on unemployment insurance. And so I think we can work with those people and fit that into the libertarian philosophy. Not fit it into the libertarian philosophy, but work around those issues within the libertarian philosophy, offering libertarian solutions to addressing those particular problems at hand. And that's how I would do it. Anyways, Larry Sharp also has very good ideas on how to do it. That's basically what a libertarian is in a nutshell. It's a very diverse view of people whose commonality believe in freedom. So to summarize, libertarianism is the idea that people should be left alone and should be able to decide for themselves what they choose to put in their own bodies, how they choose to live their lives, how they choose to raise their children, what they choose to spend their money on, and so on and so forth, as long as they don't impose danger, force, or fraud to others. And that people should be free to make their own decisions, and that, and so that's at the baseline of what a libertarian is. If they want to create a business, there shouldn't be government telling you, that you need a business license and how to run your business and all that. You should be making those determinations. There should be free market certification programs that are optional for businesses. The consumers decide which business they want to support, which ones they don't. Let the businesses decide who they choose to associate with, and if any problems occur within the free market, and I recognize it's not going to be a perfect solution, then you as the consumer have the right to boycott them if they're not hiring the people that you want them to hire, and you as the consumer can speak out as to why you are offering that boycott and or boycott if you support what the business is doing. So, and that goes as far as free trade, because we also support free trade, and we support the idea that individuals should be making these decisions and not government. So ideally, I would include that we want to get to as close as that world as possible, and that's what I would say. All right, so I'm Michael J. Long, and thank you for joining me. I truly, sincerely appreciate it.